Hey guys, Chris Adams with RVA Returners back again for the first video in our newest series, and as the name suggests, this is called Change My Mind. Each video we're going to take a look at a card in particular, and these cards are typically very polarizing. People either think that they're good, bad, not good enough, overhyped, underhyped. You kind of get the idea here, and I have a very strong opinion one way or the other on it, and I'll let you know that opinion as we go over the card. And again, the idea here is at the end, after I kind of say my piece and kind of give you the good and bad and how I feel about the card, I want this to be interactive. I want you guys to post in the comments below. Tell me what you guys think of the card. And every video will have a deck list that I think the card works well in, or a deck list that the card is already in, and something that it can maybe be replaced with if the card is on the negative side of the spectrum. So, with that being said, we're going to dive right into our first card in the series, and that's one that I really, really want to like. I really want to like it badly, and the more I play with it, I still just can't seem to get behind it. And that's the Opus 7 Fire Legend, Lann. So before we start talking about Lann, let's actually go ahead and read the card. So Lann is a 4 CP fire forward, 8k power, so he's on curve. His first line of text is, if you control a card named Rain, Lann gains 1,000 power. Pretty good. Pretty good. Second line of text is really kind of the meat of the card here, and that's when Lann deals damage to your opponent or forward, choose one forward. You may pay fire, 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 and 1, so 3 fire and 1 colorless. If you do, deal it damage equal to Lann's power. Man. Card reads very, very well, and I don't want to jump kind of jump the gun here. We'll cover both sides of the coin here. Like, the card reads very well, and as far as unpacking the positives here, let's start with the fact that it's an on curve body, 4 CP 8k, pretty solid there. It's searchable with an EX burst backup. That's always good. A forward you can just specifically search out, and that backup that searches it buffs it in more ways than one. Lann himself gets buffed for having Rain on board, and the backup Rain actually has a ability where you can tap and buff Lann with that. So you could potentially make this guy a 10k. He's pretty much, when he hits the board, he's going to be a 9k. So really, he's above curve. Then the big thing is with that ability, if he is left unchecked, he can just kind of take over a game. These all sound really good. Like, again, this is a card that reads very, very well, and if you have that turn where you actually get it to go off, it feels really good. It feels really, really good. But let's start talking about some of the negatives about this card before we get too in depth here. The first thing is that this card is slow. When I say slow, not only is it you're not swinging with it the turn it comes out. You also need to have an established backup line really before you're able to get any value out of this card, because otherwise you're just playing a vanilla 4 CP 8 or 9k. Depending on what time you play him and if you have Rain out or not. So he already needs another card to be better. And the card that needs to be better also costs 4. So, again, right there we're looking at, a lot of, output, CP output to really make this card effective. The other thing, too, is, once he hits the board, if you are established and all the stars are aligning, he becomes a lightning rod for removal. And that's because, like I said, if his ability does start to go off, he can just start taking out, 1 to 2 forwards a turn and really just keep the, the tempo on your side. But the big problem with that is once he gets started, you better have at least 3 fire backups to make his ability worthwhile. Or, have 2 fire cards in your hand. So I guess what I'm saying here with this, for this card to really be effective, you need to have cards in hand. You need to have, 4 to 5 backups. At least 3 need to be fire. And you need to be able to commit those resources every turn. And I think that's where the problem comes in. Believe it or not, just that third fire CP that you need for his ability to go off is enough to really derail him in a lot of decks. Yeah, what comes to mind immediately is like Mono Fire. Of course, he's playable in Mono Fire, but right now, are you really playing that slow of a game with Mono Fire? Like, Mono Fire is a deck that's really focused around being low to the ground, and your 4-drop slots are kind of taken up with Godot and Aegis. So, not really a whole lot of room there. Now, with those negatives in mind, like, it's enough to make him kind of narrow in a sense that you can really only play him in 1 or 2 type of decks, and the type of deck you're using him in really needs to be predominantly fire, or the backup line needs to be predominantly fire. All right, now that we've gone over the positives and the negatives, let me just kind of give you my opinion on the card. Overall, I don't like it, and it's because the negatives do outweigh the positives. Don't get it twisted. I've played games where he has won me the game before, but it's a lot fewer and far between than the turns where I've actually played the card and he just immediately dies before I can start getting any value out of it. And he is expensive. You know, you have to play a slower game, you have to play the backups, you have to play those, and then you have to play him and then wait a turn. And the question is there, do you commit more forwards to the board to, create some pressure? Or do you just swing with him and use your backup line to, start fueling his ability? Again, it's, to me, I guess I'm saying all this because it does start to feel super situational. Now, will there be a time where maybe he is a better card? Sure. But I just don't think that time is right now, because I think you're playing him in a deck that wants to set up, and right now within the current meta, the decks that want to set up just outplay this deck at every turn. And of course, I'm talking about like Wind Earth, Wind Water, even something like Scions, where once they get established in their backup line, the decks just kind of play themselves at that point. I just don't think a deck with Lann as the centerpiece can keep up. But with that being said, there actually is a deck where I think he is kind of effective, and I'm actually going to share that list with you right now. We're not going to do a full deck tech, but I'll give you the reasons why I think he plays well in the list. All right, so the deck I'm talking about is a list that I saw from a Japanese tournament. I believe that it won that tournament, and I've lovingly changed the name of the deck to Warriors of Wath. And it's primarily a Kryl / Warrior of Light deck, but Lann can actually be equally as effective because of the way the backups play out. Like, ideally, you want to get a Dominion Legionnaire out on turn 1, follow up with another Dominion Legionnaire on turn 2, into a Meath or a Rain on turn 3, so you've already got 3 fire backups right there off the bat, and you're able to search out Lann if the situation permits. But thankfully in this deck, if Lann isn't as effective, you can fall back on the powerful Warrior of Light engine that exists right now. So, give this deck a shot. Again, if I'm missing something on Lann, please, by all means, post up in the comments below. I really legitimately want someone to change my mind on this one, because I'm a sucker for fire cards, and I actually like the character of Lann, and I think this card has a lot of potential. I just don't think it's there right now, and I really truly wish that it was 2 fire and 2 colorless as opposed to 3 fire and 1 colorless. And I think that's enough of a difference to take the card from like a C- to at least an A in my book. But, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Give the deck a try and let me know what you think of Lann. Till next time.